Hello, this is social media attorney Mark Fiedholz, and welcome to my podcast, How to Write in Airtight Personal Use of Social Media Policy. For those of you who aren't familiar with my work, I'm a specialist in digital media law. My main focus is on developing social media policies and employee training that reflect current laws and mitigate risk. If you need a more in depth bio, you can find that on my various websites and course flyers. When I construct my podcasts and webinars, I have one overriding rule. It's called the no fluff rule. Professionals like you are way too busy to have their time and money wasted with nonsense and superficial information. So you do have a guarantee that this podcast won't waste your time or money. Participants in my training often say, why didn't we have this type of in depth and specialized information in my previous social media law training? Well, with that said, let's go to work. I first want to introduce you to to how this podcast is structured. Using a question and answer format, I will address 7 core issues in drafting a personal use of social media policy. To make this podcast easy to navigate and listen to again, the podcast is broken down into 7 sections. Each section has a short audio track. In the first 4 sections of the podcast, I address my overall approach to writing a personal use of social media policy. I share with you powerful policy drafting techniques based on over 30 years of specializing in developing digital media law policies and employee training programs. Now, the last 3 sections of the podcast, I focus on identifying the key liability issues and how to structure your paragraphs for easy comprehension. Those last 3 sections will be a little longer than the first 4. So let's talk about the 7 key liability issues that we're going to discuss in this course, or I should say podcast. Question number 1, why social media must be viewed as an inherently dangerous broadcasting platform. Question number 2, why you must have a separate personal use of social media policy. Question number 3, why using a model personal use of social media policy is so risky. Question number 4, how do you build a tight policy infrastructure? Question number 5, what liability issues must be incorporated into the first few paragraphs of your personal use of social media policy? Question number 6, what is the biggest mistake you make drafting a personal use of social media policy? And then question number 7, what specific speech prohibitions do you put in your personal use of social media policy? All right, well, that concludes the introduction section of this podcast. Now, please move on to question number 1 in the podcast, which will be section number 1, why social media must be viewed as an inherently dangerous broadcasting platform.